Hey everybody, welcome to episode 9 of How to Build a Game Studio, a Winterborn podcast. I'm your host, Trevor Oz, and today it's me and Jack Steele talking a little bit about an issue he had while programming for the game. And then we go into our favorite Xbox memories. The Xbox was a big formative system for us, as most of us were just exiting high school at that time. And we just wanted to share some of our memories of that original Xbox, that time period in gaming, and talk about our favorite games. So that's what we did. The sound is probably going to be a little bit off. Jack had some static on his end. We can't figure out exactly why that happens, but we're trying to figure it out. In the meantime, I tried my best to edit around it and make it appear less, so that it's not really too much of an annoyance, but the sound is going to be a little bit off because of it. But anyway, here's the show. All right, we're back with another episode of How to Build a Game Studio. I am Trevor Ross, and I'm joined today by Jack Steele.
What's up, guys?
What's up, Jack Steele? How are you today?
Doing pretty well. How about you?
Doing good. I'm doing good. I can't complain, at least. So that's always a good sign. So Jack, it's just you and me here today, and
I said, yeah, everyone bailed. What the heck?
it happens. We're the last one standing. Everybody else is gone. So Jack, since you're the last one standing, what do you want to do with the studio?
We're just gonna have to liquidate all of it, sell it all, run off with all the cash, all the piles of money that we've made already.
I think that's a great plan. All right. Well, guys, that's been the end of this pod. So a little state of the studio here, because this is something we discussed a little bit off the air after our last podcast. So Jack, we talked a bit about in one of the earlier episodes about you being new to game development. We were just a few months in to everything. So now that we're about 7 months in, almost 8 months into things, how do you feel about at least your confidence level compared to when we started?
I'd say I've definitely become a little more confident than I was at the start of it, since at the beginning I had little to no experience whatsoever with any of the stuff. But yeah, it's still just a big learning experience along the way. It's like with every new task that comes up, there's usually something there that's new to me, a new concept that I can learn about.
So I know in in the months since you've come up with a couple roadblocks, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm not sure what all exactly we can share right now, but yeah, I've definitely had I think we've all had our fair share of just like different hurdles that you have to overcome along the way. Just recently, I had to figure out a pretty tough new concept to do with like the sound that we're implementing in the game, and that took a lot of digging into and a lot of really looking into like the core of functionality and understanding it.
And for that, it was something that you couldn't just find, because for those that don't know, and it's something I talked about a little bit with my interview with Joe Mirabella on the last episode, is that as a developer, you kind of look on the forums for whatever engine you're using, stuff like that, to kind of give you a little bit of backup, because a lot of times if you run into a problem, somebody else probably has too. And this was something that I believe you couldn't find.
Yeah, this was one that, like you mentioned before, usually no matter what like issue you face, whether it's in game programming or just programming in general, there's usually someone out there that has faced a similar issue, and even if you won't be able to find exactly what you need to do, can at least pull from that resource to get a better understanding of what you're working. However, in this case, this was a time that I actually did do a ton of searching online, and surprisingly, I guess it's just because of the tools we're using and sort of non-conventional engine that we're using as well, since we're not using something like Unity or Unreal, where there's just a crazy amount of resources out there that you can look at. But because of that, it was just very difficult to find any information on this topic. And so it really did require a lot of just like Kent and I looking at it, just going back and forth, bouncing a couple ideas off of each other, until he did finally find something, and he was like, "Hey, why don't you look at this? This might be something useful." And it was something that I had already looked at in the past. So at first I was just like, "Nah, I already tried that out, but it didn't work exactly as we needed to."
Mm-hmm.
But then that did prompt me to just like dig further into that, and I eventually did figure out a way to get everything running.
So
it's running well now.
So essentially, you had to almost craft your own solution out of an already existing. Did you have to like edit in a sense, edit around what that solution was to get it to do what you needed it to do?
Yeah, it was sort of just using the different pieces in a way that people just normally don't have to if they're using Unity or Unreal, and just being able to pull from those and be able to pull the different sounds as we needed
them. So when you run into a problem like that, and then you do a bunch of research and try to fix it, and then you can't find how to fix it, I mean, how were you in that moment?
You could say I was stressed, to say the least. I was going a little crazy, just sort of like pounding my head against a wall. It felt like for a couple weeks there, looking into trying getting this solved. But then, I just stepped back from it a little bit, took a little bit of a break, and then I would talk to Ken about it, and he'd be completely understanding that, like, all of us are in this together, and that we're all facing a bunch of new things that we've never faced before. So, it was mostly just trying to take a breath and realize that it's okay if I don't understand something. It's just like, you just have to tell yourself you don't understand it yet, and that you will, eventually get to that point.
So yeah, it's about picking up skills on the fly. Mm-hmm. For sure. And now that you have a new skill and you figured it out, I mean, how does it feel after actually solving the problem?
That actually felt pretty great. Like, I think I immediately messaged Ken and was like, "Oh my god, it's working! I can hear sound." I never thought I'd be that happy about being able to hear one sound, but
well, it's really funny. Like early on, since we're in such early development, like these little things that, like, ultimately when someone actually plays our game, someone might not even notice. These small things are big deals to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and little things like that actually make me sort of appreciate the little things more when I'm playing. I've started picking up more indie games and trying them out, and I definitely have a much deeper appreciation for all the little aspects of the games that they go the extra mile to put in, or just certain things that I know had to be difficult to implement.
Yeah, that's interesting that you would gain a new perspective when actually playing games now too. So how do you feel about the progress so far on everything?
I think it's coming along pretty well. A lot of things are coming together pretty well, and we're making a decent amount of progress, slowly but surely, and it's starting to look pretty cool, the things we have going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, we're starting to actually have a bit of a base for what we're looking to build. So I think that pretty much sums up the state of our studio right now. We're just pretty much in the doing the grind there, and you guys working on the code and everything, and are just trying to set the stage in a sense, so that we can have something to play around with. So yeah. With that, I think we can move on to our topic this week, which we're going to talk a bit about the original Xbox and our favorite games on the original Xbox. I know for me, it was a kind of a big deal, at least in our friend group, when the Xbox was around, because that's kind of what we played all the time when we would go to Ken's house, the infamous Ken's house. As people will learn through this podcast and through other stuff that we release. So, Jack, what are some of your favorite games or even memories playing on the Xbox?
Xbox, yeah, it's definitely one of. It might be my favorite console of all time. If not, it's definitely up there. Some of the games that immediately come to mind would be like, I don't know if you had ever played Gladius.
Actually, I never did.
Oh, it was fantastic. It was like it was set up to be like a tactical strategy RPG, and I can't even remember what specifically it was about it. It was in like a fantasy setting, so it was definitely checked a lot of boxes for me. But I don't know if it was just that it was like the best looking strategy game like at that time, but it was just so fun.
Yeah, that's not one that I would have thought of. I mean, probably because I never played it, but
yeah, it was definitely a hidden gem
for sure. I know for me, one of the biggest memories like playing the Xbox was just Halo parties.
Yeah, that would definitely be the one that we had all collectively put the most hours into.
Yeah, and like Halo was such a thing where like previously it was LAN parties and stuff were big for like PC gamers, like playing Doom or Quake or Counter Strike, whatever. But this was kind of the first time that like console gamers could do that too, where you would set up like 4 TVs and have like 4 guys each with like their square and just playing a bunch of big team battle on Halo and stuff. So those were some good times. Any other games or memories that come to mind for you, Jay?
Some other games. I remember I loved the Prince of Persia games. I don't know if you had played those or not. The platformers where you had a dagger with the ability to like control time.
I played a bit of the first one, and then I literally sat there and watched Kent finish the last one on his Xbox at his house. So yeah, it's definitely it's something that I distinctly remember. Oddly enough.
Yeah, that's one of the craziest puzzles like in any game I had played before. I loved it.
Yeah, it makes me wonder why because I know they tried to do that reboot, and then they did kind of the Forgotten Sands, which was like a bridge between like 1 and 2, I think maybe. But then like they haven't touched it in about 10 years or so, maybe.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So it's interesting that hasn't come back in some form. I'm pretty surprised. But another game I think of when I think of the Xbox are and I think it's like these games, I should say, especially the first one, were games that drew people into the Xbox and kind of made it a system seller for those that were fans of RPGs, and that's Knights of the Old Republic.
Oh, absolutely.
Just the like the light side, dark side, being able to play around in the Star Wars universe like that. They haven't really. I mean, they've done stuff in the Star Wars universe since, but like it was like the first time you could really make your own decisions in that universe, and that's what BioWare was known for on the PC side. But I don't think they had really gotten into the console part of things until Knights of the Old Republic. So that's what I like the most. I know it's. I mean, it's probably Knights of the Old Republic is probably still my favorite RPG.
Yeah, it would definitely be up there. That game was fantastic. Just the storyline of it is still one of the best of any game I've played.
Yeah, man, the story, the reveal, the characters. I mean, it's just a rich, and it's in a universe that I think at the time, like, this is because that was post. Well, it was around the same time as the prequel movies were coming out.
Yeah, I think it was because it came out 2003.
Yeah, 2003, 2004. Yeah, so it was before Revenge of the Sith, but after Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace and stuff. But we hadn't really gotten to see anything where we got to kind of play around like that in the universe with different planets making decisions. I mean, I still love that game, and it makes me happy that Microsoft was able to do the Xbox Originals program so that you can still play that game on an Xbox somewhere. Um, another game because you Gladius being like a hidden gem. Another game that we played a bunch of against Death Row.
Man, that game was so fun.
It it was a ridiculous game. I mean, it's essentially like a disc jam, where you have two sides of what was it, teams of four, right?
Yeah, I think so. It was like 4 or 5.
Yeah, and it's basically just you want to get the disc from one end to the other like soccer, just with a disc. Except you're playing as like death row inmates, and you can literally just win by beating up the other team to the point that they can't keep playing. Like it's such an interesting concept, and it was just fun to play at the time, even though it wasn't like super in depth or anything. Um, but it's weird that like it's weird that it was a an Ubisoft game. Um, so, but it's also I'm sure it didn't sell particularly great, but I would be interesting to see what a game like that would look like today.
Yeah, I don't even know. That game was just so like over the top violent that I don't know if uh, people would even like make games like that today that are just ridiculous, have no real point to them or anything. But they're just fun.
Yeah, I think if it was done today, they'd probably have to put some sort of like I don't know, like almost like either a story, some sort of storyline behind it, or they'd have to go like the esports route
Oh yeah.
and tie it in that way. Um, but then like, man, now I'm starting to think way too much about it, and that's not a great thing because I'm just like, well, if you go the esports route, then you have to make sure each side is evenly matched, and and then it's like, and then it gets into like that granular space right there. But
Just start up the Death Row Esports League. Catch on.
all right, guys. Well, those are our upcoming plans. We're gonna do some esports deathmatch. Um, but yeah, Death Row was one of the ones that Kent had put that he had sent his list to me. He also put on there Panzer Dragoon Orta.
Oh yeah, that one. That one was pretty good. It was sort of like a arcade shooter, like adaptation of old Panzer Dragoon games.
Yeah, I think that was the first one that I played because I didn't own any of the previous, because previously they were on. Was the first one like on Saturn?
Yeah, I think they were all on Sega Saturn.
Yeah, so I'd never played one before because I never owned a Sega Saturn. Um, but yeah, it was fun. I mean, it was a basic arcade shooter. Difficult as those games are, but it was really cool, really fun. Are there any other Xbox games that you can think of?
Ones that come to mind? I guess Morrowind.
Yeah, that's
Put a lot of hours into that.
yeah. I know. Literally, Kent had notebooks full of stuff like quests and everything from Morrowind.
Yeah, because you didn't have like an in-game quest log or anything, or even like markers to show you where you're supposed to be going for your quest. So you literally had to like just keep track of everything on your own. And that's what made it so easy for me, because he introduced me to the game, and then he has this like whole giant notebook full of. It was basically like a guide for every quest in the game that I could use.
That's awesome. See, like when I tried to start playing Morrowind, I didn't have that, so I was like, I think that's why I didn't get into it, was because I just didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Yeah, that would make it a little more difficult.
And I didn't have anyone there that had played it that would be like, oh no, you just do that, you know. Um, but yeah, I think now almost in a way we've gone like so far the other way, where like questing's so simple. It's like you just go here and you do the thing, and then you know.
Oh yeah, they've had a lot to simplify things. Like now, if you put quests like that in a game, people would just put the controller down and be like, "I'm not playing this anymore. I have no idea what I'm doing, where I should go."
Yeah, it's almost weird because like there's in a lot of older games there was almost more of a sense of exploration that just isn't prevalent in a lot of at least mainstream games right now. So it's interesting to see certain games that don't have that, that have actually kind of taken off in a sense, uh, uh, like some of the space exploration stuff, that sort of thing, where they don't really tell you where to go or what to do. You just go and explore, you know.
Yeah, that's just part of the fun of it.
Yeah, and I think those are definitely cool. Although I will admit I lean more towards the I know where I'm going and I want to see a story because I'm very much a story person. But one thing about the Xbox, I think, and I mean, a lot of these games are on multiple systems, so they weren't really Xbox exclusive. But from that generation, it's we saw a lot of almost like double A games, not necessarily like almost like a B tier of games that were really fun and interesting. But like we just don't see a lot of that anymore. Like it's either like straight indie or like blockbuster AAA anymore. So it was so like stuff like The Suffering or like Destroy All Humans or like Psyops.
Oh
That
yeah,
game,
that was a good one. I forgot all about that.
that game was insane. Um,
So much fun just unlocking all the different abilities in it.
yeah, and just like at a certain point, like you you have the ability to make someone's mind explode with your mind. Like it's been so long since I even played that game. I'd actually like to check that out again at some point.
Mm-hmm.
just to see how well it holds up. But yeah, it's interesting. The Xbox was kind of like the Xbox, PlayStation 2, GameCube era was kind of like almost like the last era for that, because it 360 had some of that stuff, um, but it was more going towards like once the internet was there and people could release games online without put them in a store. That's when we got the big indie boom. So
Yeah, I'd be hard pressed to even point out like a game that would fall in like that middle area today. Like all the games I can think of, it's either like, yep, that's AAA, or no, that's an indie studio that I know of.
yeah, most of the big games are. I mean, it almost feels like maybe THQ Nordic becoming a thing is starting to bring some of that stuff back, in a sense, because THQ published a lot of those AA B games. Um, yeah, I think it's just interesting how the landscape of video games have changed since then. Are there any other games that come to mind for you, Jack?
Big ones on the Xbox. I remember enjoying Fable quite a bit. I know there's a lot of like bad feelings surrounding that game just from how much it was hyped up whenever they first announced the whole Project Ego thing. But I've had a really good time with it, and I've liked pretty much all the Fable games since then too.
Yeah, it was definitely a product of the Peter Molyneux talks a lot about what this game could be, and hypes it up, and everybody wants to believe him because it sounds great.
Yeah, I think I was just so young when the first one came out that I didn't even like pay attention to all the things that he was writing about it, or all the features that he said would be in it. I just like started up the game and thought it was really fun.
Yeah, I think for me, like I was a bit disappointed with it. I mean, I want to give it another shot now, just to see, because I don't remember what it was supposed to be at this point.
Yeah.
So, but like for me, I just remember sitting in like a history class, like I don't know if, and like reading Xbox magazine and the article about Fable and being like so excited for it, and then being disappointed when I actually started playing it. But yeah, but I didn't give it as much of a chance. I don't think back then, because I mean I was a teenager, and sometimes teenagers are fickle.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Fable's a good one. Um, and obviously, I mean, we mentioned the first Halo, but Halo 2 was a big launch. Was kind of like the biggest thing at the time. I remember, because you were a bit younger. Did you ever go to any like game launches back then?
Yeah. I was at the midnight release.
So you were,
Halo 2. I think someone had to drive me there.
yeah.
Yeah, I still went.
Okay, yeah. So you were there when, so where we're from, there's basically it's a dying mall now, but it was a less dying mall then, and essentially they had locked. This is November, so it's cold out. They had locked the outside entrance to the mall instead of letting us line up inside, because that's they I mean, granted, there weren't that many midnight launch events at that point, so they probably
Like
did.
concept at that time.
Yeah, so they just probably had no idea what the hell to do. Um, so yeah, we were all lined up outside, and then I just remember when they unlocked the doors to the inside of the mall, because basically in our mall um, there's like a long hallway, and then you turn right, and GameStop's like right around the corner. And the moment they unlocked those doors and started letting people in, I just know people just started running down the hall.
it was like they opened the floodgates. People just took off as fast as they could, even though everyone had already pre-ordered their copy. Like, it's not like they were going to run out. And everyone's just sprinting as fast as they can to the GameStop, just like trampling over each other. It was nuts.
Yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous. And the funny thing is, it's like everybody runs to GameStop and then has to stand in line at GameStop.
And then just waits they just run to a line. Like, it made no sense.
It was definitely one of like the crazy stupidest experiences that I've ever had in my life. But that was video games back then, man. Halo was on top of the world at that point. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I got, Jack.
Yeah, I think same for me. It was a nice stroll down memory lane with all these awesome old games.
Yeah, there's a lot of good memories back there. I'm sure in the future we'll talk about other systems and other games we really enjoyed, but yeah, the Xbox I think almost held like a special place for us growing up in a way, because that's what we would do at Kent's house during the summers. So, but all right. Well, Jack, thanks for joining me this week.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we will be back. Thanks for listening. And that's the show for this week. I want to thank Jack Steele once again for being on this week. And thank you all for listening. We appreciate your support. If you're a game developer, whether indie or not, and you'd like to come on and talk about something involved with game development, that sort of thing, obviously we're not going to tell your secrets to the world. But if you have anything to share, feel free to email us, social media at winterborngames.com. And if you're just a listener and you have some questions for us, and we can answer them. Also, send an email to socialmedia at winterborngames.com, and we'll read them out on the podcast, try to answer them to the best of our ability. And hopefully, if we get enough of those, we can just maybe do an episode that's just a Q&A. But again, thank you guys for listening. Be sure to rate, review us on iTunes if you are able to. It helps more people find out about the podcast, and that's helpful for us, and hopefully you'll do that for us. We appreciate it. If you also can email us again, or talk to us on social media. I see everything that's posted to at Winterborn Games on Twitter, and just tell us if there's any platforms you'd like to see us go to, any platforms that we need to add the show onto, and I'll do my best to get the show on those platforms as well. And again, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week.